Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
So, welcome to another episode of Breaking Brews. I am your host, Commander Claw, and I know exactly why you clicked on this video. You're telling me you're old. You're old, my friend. You're old, player. Hit the like button if you remember playing any of the Final Fantasies on the original PlayStation or the Game Boy Advance. And guess what? You don't even have to tell me you do, because I can look at the analytics and know that you're old. It tells me who's between this range and not. But anyway, I'm glad I'm talking to my peeps from the same generation. If you're a little bit younger generation, Final Fantasy was an amazing game. I believe there's a bunch of emulators on it, so you can go back in time and re-experience it, but you can't re-experience going to Blockbuster Video or Hollywood Video or even Best Buy and actually playing video games like your Nintendo 64, Nintendo PlayStation through the little glass case and with random strangers that are walking in the store. Those days are gone, my friend. So hit those like buttons if you remember those days. But moving on to Terra Herald of Hope. So, Terra Herald of Hope is a Mardu commander, red, white, and black. She's a 3/3 body, legendary creature, human wizard warrior. Already right there, you can do a bunch of tribal things with either humans, wizards, or warriors, especially warriors. I do have a warrior commander later on in the video that is amazing with this. But anyway, starting with her first ability, Trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Already we are self-milling. It's looking interesting. Terra gains flying until end of turn. So a 3/3 creature that self-mills and possibly can fly. Not bad. Okay, what we're gonna do with that in Mardu Commanders? We can do a lot. I'm already thinking about self-milling and putting artifacts in the graveyard, uh, creatures that die, creatures that leave the graveyard, stuff like that. But let me read her second ability. It says, whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 mana. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So let me tell you, creatures with power 3 or less from your graveyard is a lot. I actually looked it up. There's 7,132 creatures with 3 or less power. And remember, they're in red, white, and black, not blue and green. Red, white, and black only. And there is only 5,183 creatures with power 2 or less. There's a 2,000 creature difference going from 2 to 3. That's how amazing she is. So I just want to put in perspective. For now on, when you're playing the game of Magic, increasing the number by 1 opens up plentiful of opportunities in different ways. So do not underestimate 1, the power of 1. I say that all the time in my pod. But she actually reminds me of 2 creatures. 2 creatures, 2 Mardu creatures. And let me show you who they are. So we got Alesha, who smiles at death, right? For 2 in a red, 3/2 body, human warrior, first strike. And when she attacks, you pay 2 mana, either in white and black, 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 white, white. And if you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. That's kind of like Terra. Kind of like, except for Terra only triggers after you deal combat damage. So it will be important for you to give her flying or other evasive abilities. She also reminds me of Kalia the Vast on the right hand side here. For 1 in Mardu color, she's a 2/2 body, human cleric. And she says, whenever she's attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So you might be thinking, Commander Claw, you know, that's very open-ended. I'm going to put in the most powerful angels, demons, creatures, and dragons. Let me tell you, there are plenty of those creature types with power 3 or less that have amazing abilities. And probably most of the creature types that you're going to play with have power 3 or less. I'm about to show you a couple of them, okay? So hang on tight and let's get into the creature tribals. Now remember, we want to talk about and think about Kali of the Vast, right? Kali of the Vast says when she attacks, you can put a demon, dragon, or angel into play. We're thinking dragon's possibilities with Terra Herald of Hope, okay? Power 3 or less, bring these creatures onto the battlefield for literally 2 mana. And she's amazing because she says at the beginning of your upkeep, you mill 2 cards. So you possibly can put one of these dragons into your graveyard that same turn, go to combat, deal damage to one of your opponents by giving Terra flying and paying 2 mana and putting in to your left Guardian Scale Lord, a 5 CMC creature, 3/4 body. Literally, is a reanimating effect. That's what this dragon is. Mardu is going to give you Mardu colors, red, white, and black. It's going to give you a range of effects and abilities. It's really good at reanimation effects, uh, creature sacrifice, death triggers, even damage doublers. The creature in the middle I want to share with you is Shadrix Silverquill, another 5 CMC dragon, 2/5 body, okay, Elder Dragon. It's got flying, double strike, and this crazy political ability that I really love is at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white black inkling creature with flying, okay, sacrifice fodder or a blocker or an attacker. Its second ability is target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Okay, cool, cool. All on a creature. Target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. So you can literally build your board state. All right. You got options with this dragon that you can put on the battlefield for 2 mana. I can tell you right now, your opponents will not let Terra just hang around, flying around, hanging around, whatever. It's not going to work. It's not. They're not going to let you get all that value, reanimation value, putting dragons onto the battlefield. Next up, we got another new Foundation staple, Twin Flame Tyrant on the far right hand side. Another 5 CMC dragon, 3/5. I'm highlighting the 3 because that's the power 3 or less we could put into play for 2. It's a dragon flying, and it literally says deals double the damage from a source you control. I did sum that up really quick. Let me just read it. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage. So that could be your burn spells. Whenever your creature attacks and deals damage, like Terra, she's a 3/3. So when she hits an opponent for 3, they're taking 6. And that's not even the artifact equipments you probably added on her. So check out the, I would say, a unique creature type that I think players can take advantage of. So definitely, this is a fan favorite of pretty much a lot of players. Angels just do so much. They're super powerful, and these are just 3 angels that have power 3 or less. I should have looked it up on Scryfall on how many angel creature types there are that have power 3 or less. I'm telling you, do not sleep on these creature types. You can literally play Kali of the Vast and Alessia, whose fate as Terra, the Herald of Hope. So Draina Lavala on the left hand side, 3/4 body for 1, 2 white and a black, flying vigilance. Activated abilities of creatures you control, your opponent's control can't be activated. Okay, so that prevents all activation your opponent's creatures have. I want you to think about the Scarab God. A player has to pay 5 mana to take another creature from another graveyard and zombify it. Draina says no. Or think about Kenrith, the Return King. With all those activated abilities, gain life, lose life, +1/+1 counters, yada yada, all that crazy mess. Draina shuts that off. She says no. She gets even better. She says Draina and Lavala has all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. So you literally can steal the Scarab God's ability. Oh my gosh. Oh, that would be gross. That would be gross. Or even Kenrith's, the Returning King's, one of his 5 abilities. That's just crazy. In the middle here, we have Giada, Font of Hope. If you never played her, she's actually pretty cool. She's actually pretty cool. For a mono white commander, I thought it was pretty unique, pretty powerful, and she's actually kind of like aggro. For mono white, I thought you couldn't play that many angels that quick, but you can. Let me read her. Flying Vigilance, 2/2 body, angel. Each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. Tap her, add white mana, spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. So she's a mana dork for your angels, and your angels come in with more +1/+1 counters for each angel you have on the battlefield. Creating angels is actually pretty easy because there's a bunch of sorcery spells that say put 5/4/4 angels onto the battlefield. If a creature comes into play with a +1/+1 counter, it's an angel in addition to its type. That's how crazy she gets. Next up, we got Aurelia the Warleader. Y'all should know her by now. If you're new to Magic, let me introduce you to her. She is a automatic go-to for infinite combat phases. Pretty much, you have her and Helm of the Host, and it creates infinite combats. Watch out for that. But you gotta remove her. Let me tell you what she does. For 2 red and 2 white, angel, 3/4 body, another 1 creature you can bring back for 2 life for Terra. Flying Vigilance Haste. Jesus Christ. Whenever Aurelia the Warleader attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this, there's an additional combat phase. So when I mentioned Helm of the Host, you literally creating different Aurelia the Warleaders, and it'll be their first time attacking each turn that you attack. Then you untap. Then you attack. But you made another one and another one. You see where it goes? Yeah. Moving on to enchantment creatures. So I think a lot of players, if I didn't put out this video, would have definitely overlooked enchantment creatures. Now, in the Duskmourn set, enchantment creatures were plentiful. But these 3 enchantment creatures are kind of like the first ones. I forgot the name of the set, but yeah, they're archetypes of something. So archetype of aggression, pretty much for 3 mana, 3/2 body. Creatures you control have trample. Amazing. If you plan on going wide, or you need Terra to trample over a 1/1 flying creature or whatever, this is your creature, right? But it also says creatures your opponents control lose trample and can't have or gain trample. So it just shuts that down. The same thing goes for Archetype of Courage, except for its first strike. And your opponents lose first strike and can't have or gain first strike. You got to think about all those equipments that players are putting on their creatures. This shuts it off. It says no. No. Then on the right hand side, we got Archetype Finality. For 6 mana, 2/3 body Gorgon, enchantment creature. Creatures you control have death touch. Creatures your opponents control lose death touch and can't have or gain death touch. Same effect here. We gain, your opponents lose all those keywords abilities. Yeah. But I do have one enchantment creature that I think is well worth your while. Ooh, Fear of Missing Out. So for 2 mana, 1 and a red, 2/3 body, enchantment creature, Nightmare, Duskmourn set here. When Fear of Missing Out enters, discard a card and draw a card. Cool, it's got a looting effect. But it has Delirium. Whenever Fear of Missing Out attacks for the first time each turn, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, untap target creature. That's going to be easy to do because Terra has a self-milling effect. What do you know? After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So another low-end CMC creature that gives you additional combat phases. What are we doing here? That's a win. I think this is an auto-include. Next up, I got to show you my favorite card. So, Zahur Glory's Past. I know most players have seen Aether Drift. They saw this guy, and they're all hyped up about Hashiton Scarab's Fist and Temet, the other zombie guys. And they see Zahur, and it's very underwhelming. However, I feel like in this Terra Herald of Hope deck, it shines brightly. For white and a black, 3/2 body, Zombie Cat Warrior. Okay, start your engines. We know what this does by now. You start at 1, and every time you do damage to an opponent on your turn, you increase your speed. Cool, that's going to be easy to do in Mardu because all of your effects are going to be doing combat damage or non-combat damage. You do that often and easy. Next up, sacrifice another creature. Surveil 1. Activate only once each turn. This is where it shines here. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, and we want to sacrifice a creature with a death trigger or an enter the battlefield ability, and we sacrifice a creature with an enter the battlefield ability, we're going to reanimate it with Terra Herald of Hope for 2 mana and put it back on the field, getting more value. However, we also get the Surveil 1. Surveil is, you look at your top card, you say, do I want this card back on top of my library or in my graveyard? This is giving you options and allows you to set up Terra Herald of Hope. I'll tell you this. Every time you see activate only once each turn, that's a good card. They say, hey, we need you to limit the ability of you doing whatever you want to do, we got to limit it. However, this is once each turn. So if you have enough sacrifice fodder, you could do this on each player's turn. And I think that's good because there's the element of surprise. So its last ability, I think, is great too. Max speed. That means you've done enough damage to get to max speed, right? Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. Why this is good? Well, if you sacrifice that non-token creature that has a death trigger, you get the death trigger effect. You get the Surveil 1. And you create a 2/2 zombie creature token that you can sacrifice later on again to surveil again. And you can surveil on another player's turn by sacrificing that creature. You see where I'm going out here? It's just repeated value. It's a really good card. Great utility card. Underestimated, great card. Moving on to that warrior that I mentioned earlier. So, I gotta tell you, this is probably a top 5 commander ever. Ever. Najee the Blade Blossom. She will tear you apart. I've been a victim of this card way too many times. The strength of this card, it's Urborg. That means it's all 5 colors, right? And she's fast. She comes out on the battlefield quickly. If she's not answered, the game is over. So, let's talk about her. For 2 in a red, 3/2 body, legendary creature, human warrior. Whenever a warrior attacks, you may have its controller create a 1/1 white warrior creature token that's tapped and attacking. Let me tell you right now, this triggers for each warrior. So mind you, she creates a warrior. So you're following attack phase. You are getting more warriors for each warrior that you're attacking with. Then you created another warrior. Remember that if you plan on using her as your commander. Otherwise, tap Urborg. Untap all attack creatures. They gain trample, lifelink, and haste until end of turn. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Activate this ability only during combat. Why this is powerful? Because players have been able to go infinite combat phases. And this is infinite combat possibilities on a commander. And she has green in her color pip. So green is easy and able to mana ramp and mana fix. It's not hard. Very awesome commander. Great card to play with, but not be a victim to. Moving on to cards you possibly have missed. So I wanted to show you some cards to give you just more value out there. Those, triggers after triggers, it gives you more value. Anyway, this Desecrated Tomb for 3. For 3 mana, artifact. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. Easy to do. Whenever you use Terra's ability and you tap 2 mana after dealing combat damage, you're going to put a creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Then you create a 1/1 bat. Easy as that. And it's not limited to a turn, or it just happens. So whenever you have other reanimation effects, this still triggers. Next up, we got Dragon Trainer. I found this was a good find after looking for all those dragons. For 3 and 2 red, 1/1 human. When this creature enters, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. Easy as that. So if you have a sacrifice outlet like Zahur Glory's Past, the zombie cat, sacrifice this creature. Reanimated with Terra, and put a 4/4. And just continues to do this. Just continue to do this. Continue to do this. Why not? Moving on to our summary. Thank you, all you old school players who fell in love with Final Fantasy back in the day with Game Boy Advance and PlayStation. I just want to say Terra Herald of Hope is an awesome Mardu commander. She's the best of Alesha and Kali of the Vast. You have the possibilities of reanimating powerful creatures with power 3 or less, and there's plenty of them. And don't be afraid to add bigger creatures that don't meet the criteria. They could just be toolbox creatures to do certain things. I just made this 5 EDH cards. By now I always give you more than 5 cards. Utility creatures that can just boost the power creature that you have in your deck. There's so many endless ways. So in the comment section below, let us know, meaning the community and Commander Claw myself, what other cards that I probably missed or cards you suggest. Thank you for watching. Peace out.